commander, let's light the sky. Training sharper drone pilots, learning how to fly. Mission ready mindset, safety leading every plan. Skills that build confidence from takeoff through the scan. Tune in at Sky Commander, come join the crew today. Learning smart, fly with purpose, level up your way. We see more, no sooner, that's the edge we're here to spread. See above, go beyond, get ahead.
Okay, let's get started. Imagine you are driving down a highway at like 60 miles an hour.
Okay, normal everyday commute.
Right. But your windshield is completely blacked out, like totally opaque.
Oh, wow. That is terrifying.
Yeah. And the only way you can see where you're going is by looking through a pair of high-powered binoculars out the passenger side window. And you're just staring at this really interesting building passing by.
Right. And because of the binoculars, the image you're looking at is like perfectly stable. It's crystal clear.
Exactly.
So you actually feel entirely in control because the thing you're focused on isn't shaking or moving erratically at all.
Right. You feel like a professional. You feel incredibly focused. But meanwhile, your car is quietly drifting across 2 lanes of traffic straight toward a concrete barrier.
Which is just a disaster waiting to happen.
It is. And that terrifying scenario isn't from some, virtual reality driving simulator. It's actually the exact psychological state of a drone pilot suffering from what aviation experts call tunnel vision.
It's so wild to think about it that way.
It really is. So we are thrilled to have you with us today on this deep dive. We are pulling from this incredibly detailed, really advanced set of training manuals. It's specifically the Sky Commander series on human factors and operational safety.
Which is basically the gold standard for this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today is to figure out how our brains basically trick us into thinking we are in total control right up until the exact moment of impact.
And that is the core of what we're unpacking for you today. Because, even if you never pick up a drone controller in your life, you manage complex information under pressure. We all do.
Oh, for sure.
Whether you're managing multiple streams of data in a corporate boardroom or navigating a crowded emergency room, or, just driving your car while a podcast plays in your phone buzzes.
Right, trying to do 3 things at once.
Exactly. The source material uses drone aviation to explore this universal human vulnerability, which is that our brains are just exceptionally bad at prioritizing safety and situational awareness when there's a really shiny, rewarding task right in front of our faces.
Yeah.
It's really about the fundamental difference between merely executing a task and actually commanding a situation.
I think the most unsettling part of the Sky Commander text, for me at least, is the realization that this phenomenon doesn't announce itself. Like, to understand why tunnel vision is so dangerous, we have to grasp that it doesn't arrive as panic.
No, not at all.
It doesn't feel like confusion or, a loss of control. It actually feels exactly like competence.
Which is the craziest part.
Right. The pilot is just standing there, the controller is in their hands, the image on the screen is gorgeous, and they think they are absolutely crushing the job.
It's the paradox of productivity. The manuals make a very careful distinction here, because focus in and of itself is not the enemy.
Right, we need focus.
You absolutely need it. A drone pilot has to frame a shot, monitor telemetry, manage the aircraft, just like an accountant has to focus on the spreadsheet, or, a surgeon has to focus on the incision.
Sure, that makes sense.
But tunnel vision arrives when that necessary focus quietly morphs into fixation. And because it happens, while you're doing the exact job you set out to do, you get this continuous positive feedback loop.
Like a mental reward.
Exactly. The pilot thinks, I am locked in, I am getting the shot, the client is going to love this footage. They feel completely calm, the screen looks clean.
So it's essentially just a massive dopamine trap.
Oh, 100%.
Because the text mentions that the screen gives the pilot immediate micro rewards. Like, you push the stick slightly, the image gets a little sharper, the subject stays perfectly centered, the lighting adjusts.
Yeah.
Your brain is basically being constantly patted on the back by the technology.
Because the human brain is hardwired to seek out and reward completion and order. And the screen provides this constant, highly structured stream of order. It's actively whispering to you, look how good you are at this.
You're a genius, basically.
Right. But the manual forces operators to ask a much harder question. Focused on what? If your answer is one thing only, like just the framing of the camera, then your focus has completely turned against you. You can be intensely, beautifully focused on a glowing rectangle while remaining dangerously unaware of the physical realities surrounding the flying lawnmower you're currently operating.
A flying lawnmower, yeah, that's essentially what it is.
It really is. Fixation happens when your attention gets glued to one element, even after the operating environment has changed, and something else urgently requires your awareness.
I want to pause on that, actually, because our whole culture champions focus.
We do. We worship it.
Right. We read books about achieving, like, flow state. We put on noise-canceling headphones to block out every distraction. So at what point does a highly productive flow state cross the line into dangerous fixation? I mean, there has to be a measurable threshold where good focus goes bad.
It's a completely valid tension. We are taught to idolize focus, but the text frames it beautifully. It says good focus is controlled attention. Fixation is captured attention.
Controlled versus captured.
Exactly. Think about the difference in agency there. Controlled attention means you're actively choosing to allocate your bandwidth to that screen. But you can effortlessly snap your awareness outward to check your surroundings.
You're still driving the bus?
Right. Captured attention means the screen has taken your cognitive bandwidth hostage. You couldn't look away if you tried. And the manual provides a very practical litmus test for when you've crossed that line. It basically comes down to immediate command recall.
What does that mean in practice?
It means if a crew member tapped you on the shoulder and asks, where is the aircraft right now? What direction is the wind pushing it? What is your immediate escape path?
Oh.
And you have to hesitate. Or look up from the screen and kind of search the sky to orient yourself.
Oh, wow.
You've lost command. You are no longer flying an aircraft. You're just watching a movie that it's filming.
That is so profound. Watching a movie it is filming, which actually brings up one of the most fascinating mechanical concepts in the source, is the gimbal trap.
Oh, this is a big one.
Right. And for anyone who might not know, a gimbal is the pivoting motorized mount that holds the camera on the bottom of the drone. Its entire job is to keep the lens perfectly steady. It counteracts every bump, every tilt, every sudden movement the drone makes.
It's essentially a mechanical shock absorber for the camera.
Exactly. And the text makes this really profound point here. The gimbal physically separates seeing from flying.
It's a masterpiece of deception. I mean, the camera could be locked on to a beautiful historic building, keeping it dead center in the frame. But to maintain that perfect shot in, say, a crosswind, the drone itself might be tilted at a sharp 30-degree angle, crabbing sideways and backward. But the smooth footage completely scrubs all that bad geometry of the flight path from the pilot's view.
It's hiding the struggle.
Completely. Your visual cortex is receiving this pristine signal that says, we are floating peacefully. Meanwhile, the physical machine is fighting physics, sliding sideways, and closing distance with a concrete pillar.
I love the memory phrase the curriculum uses to drill this into pilots. It's so good. The lens looks, the aircraft moves.
It's brilliantly simple.
Right. Because the gimbal stabilizes the image, it actively lies to our sense of motion. So the pilot's mental picture of the physical world just stops updating. They end up flying based on a stale mental model.
And that concept, the stale mental model, that is the foundation for everything that goes wrong next.
Because reality keeps going.
Exactly. When your mental model stops updating, reality doesn't hit pause. Reality keeps evolving. And the manuals categorize these evolving realities into the big 8 blind spots.
The big 8.
Right. These are the physical elements of the mission that quietly fade away while the pilot is seduced by the screen. They don't disappear from the world. They just vanish from the pilot's attention.
Let's weave these big 8 blind spots together, because looking at them isolated is one thing, but seeing how they cascade into a disaster is terrifyingly relatable to any complex project we do.
It's a total domino effect.
Let's start with obstacles. The text makes a great distinction between obvious obstacles, like a massive oak tree or a brick wall, and sneaky obstacles.
Sneaky obstacles are the worst.
They really are. Sneaky ones are like the chain link fence tops or bare winter branches or those incredibly thin, almost invisible guy wires holding up utility poles. And the reality is, obstacles don't hunt you down. They just patiently wait for you to make a mistake.
The danger here is that the camera frame actively deletes them.
What do you mean?
Well, a camera frame is essentially a highly curated selection of reality. When you point that stabilized lens at your subject, the tight framing removes the guy wire above the aircraft, it removes the brick wall behind it, and the branches to the left.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. The obstacle doesn't need to be camouflaged in real life. It only needs to be outside the pilot's really narrow field of view. But it's not just horizontal obstacles that catch people. The cascade usually begins with a vertical blind spot known as altitude creep.
Oh man, altitude creep makes so much sense psychologically. A pilot is staring at the screen, framing a shot left to right. They're thinking entirely horizontally.
Right.
So if they notice the drone is getting a little too close to one of those bare branches, their instinct is often just to pop the drone up a few feet to clear it without really looking away from the screen.
You've hit on the exact mechanism. They dodge the obstacle vertically, and then they adjust the camera gimbal slightly downward to keep the subject centered.
Oh, and then the shot looks even better.
Yes. Suddenly, the shot looks even more sweeping and heroic from that slightly higher vantage point. Or, conversely, they let the drone slowly descend to get a more intimate, detailed shot of a roofline.
Is that dopamine hit again?
Every single tiny adjustment that improves the image detail is a psychological reward. But mathematically, it is a trade. You are trading your safety margin, your distance from the ground, or the tree canopy for image quality. You're being rewarded for actively shrinking your margin of error.
Wow. And here's where the causality really kicks in. Let's say you've bumped your altitude up 20 feet to clear those branches. You're feeling good about the shot. But by popping up above the tree line, you've just exposed the drone to the next blind spot, which is wind shift and drift.
Oh, this one gets so many people.
The text uses a great analogy here. It says the camera view is like watching a duck glide across a glass smooth pond. It looks totally serene. But underneath the water, the legs are paddling furiously just to maintain that position.
Wind is incredibly dynamic, and humans are notoriously bad at perceiving it unless it's blowing directly in our faces.
Right. If we don't feel it, we don't think it's there.
Exactly. Pilots often make the mistake of treating wind as a problem they solved at takeoff. They check a weather app, they note a gentle 5-mile-per-hour breeze, and mentally they just check that box forever.
Wind is fine. Moving on.
Right. Buildings bend wind. A street corridor can turn a gentle breeze into a literal wind tunnel. When you climb above those trees, you might suddenly hit a 20-mile-per-hour gust.
And the gimbal hides it.
The gimbal immediately counteracts the turbulence, keeping the camera perfectly steady. You see a smooth image, but the drone is leaning hard into the wind, working its motors to the absolute maximum, and very likely beginning to drift downwind.
Drift is the silent killer here. The drone is physically sliding sideways, eating up the distance between itself and a light pole. But because that gimbal is keeping the house perfectly centered on the screen, the pilot's brain is screaming, "We are hovering perfectly still."
It's an illusion.
The drift eats up the buffer space while the pilot is oblivious.
It is the physical manifestation of tunnel vision. But notice the mental drift that precedes it.
Mental drift.
Yeah. The pilot's initial mental state was, I'm going to fly this mission safely. Then it drifted to, I just need to frame this house. Then it drifted to, I just need to hold this angle for 3 more seconds. When your priorities drift, your physical safety margins almost always follow.
That is so true. So we've climbed to dodge a branch, we got hit by higher winds, and now we are quietly drifting sideways. This brings us to the most unpredictable blind spot, people.
The biggest wild card.
The text calls the ground alive. Obstacles are patient, right? They just sit there. But people change everything in an instant.
You can perform a flawless site survey before takeoff. You can ensure the parking lot is completely empty. But a site that was perfectly safe 45 seconds ago might be a high-risk zone right now.
Because people walk.
Exactly. A delivery driver pulls a van into the lot. A resident walks out of their front door to get the mail. Or a curious bystander wanders over because they heard the buzzing. If you are heads down, completely locked into that screen, tracking your drift and your framing, you are flying with a mental model of the ground that expired a minute ago.
And the sources point out something fascinating here. It's not just the physical collision risk that matters. There's a massive operational risk regarding public perception.
Yes, the PR side of things.
Right. If a person walks out of their house and they feel watched or unsafe because a drone is hovering nearby and the pilot is just staring blankly at a screen, completely oblivious to them, I mean, it looks incredibly unprofessional.
It looks negligent.
Exactly. The pilot looks negligent. The perception of the public literally becomes a tangible risk to the mission and the client's reputation.
It's a really profound insight into operational maturity. A pilot with wide awareness, someone who isn't captured by the screen, sees that person step out the door. They immediately pause the drone, look up, make eye contact, wave, politely communicate.
They handle it like a human being.
Right. They de-escalate before a problem even exists. A fixated pilot gets startled when the person finally walks up and yells at them. They get defensive, and it ruins the entire operation.
Okay, so we are drifting. There are now people on the ground, and our drone is fighting the wind. This brings us to a critical blind spot where I actually want to push back a bit on the manual.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
It's the battery. The curriculum lists battery awareness as a massive blind spot, but the pilot has the battery percentage glowing right in their face on the screen. It's usually big, it's bright green or yellow or red. It is literally part of the truth they are staring at. How can a pilot possibly be blind to the battery when they are looking directly at it?
You were totally right to call that out, because it feels completely counterintuitive. How do you miss the glowing number?
Right.
The answer is that they don't miss the number. They miss the context. They're looking at the battery percentage, but they are ignoring the battery trend.
The trend versus the percentage. Unpack that for me.
Okay, so a percentage simply tells you where you are right now. The trend tells you where you are going and how fast you're getting there.
Okay.
Imagine the number says 42%. If you are hovering 10 feet away from your landing pad on a perfectly calm day, 42% is an eternity. It's plenty of time.
You could fly for another 10 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But let's go back to our scenario. You've climbed high, you're fighting a stiff headwind, you're drifting away from your home point, and a delivery van just parked over your landing zone.
Yeah.
In that specific context, 42% is a full-blown emergency.
Oh, wow.
The manual is brutal about this. A percentage is a data point. A trend is a survival plan. Tunnel vision makes pilots look at the isolated number and think, I have enough juice for one more pass. They completely stop doing the mental math of the return trip against the wind.
The manual calls that the one more shot trap, right?
Exactly.
It's that intense desire to just finish the job. Tunnel vision actually gets worse at the end of a mission because the pilot feels so incredibly close to success, they start negotiating with their own safety margins.
We all do it.
They tell themselves, I'll just take 10 more seconds to get this roof line. I don't want to land, swap batteries, and fly all the way back up here just for 10 seconds of footage. So they accept a rapidly draining battery and massively increased risk just for convenience.
Because the human brain is a terrible risk assessor when it is highly motivated by completion. The brain says, we are almost done, nothing bad has happened yet, therefore nothing bad will happen in the next 10 seconds.
Which is terrible logic.
It is. That unearned optimism will eat your battery reserve alive.
So the battery is tanking, and now the final two physical blind spots kick in. Signal quality and escape space. The text refers to signal quality as the invisible tether.
That's a great way to put it.
If you are fixated on framing the shot, a little stutter in the video feed or a low transmission warning just feels like an annoying glitch. You ignore it because the shot looks so good. But that signal degradation is reality telling you that your tether is stretching.
And if that tether snaps, like if the screen goes completely black, you instantly need the final blind spot, which is escape space.
The bailout plan.
Right. Escape space isn't just the empty air around the drone. It is the usable, predetermined safety margin you have reserved to recover the aircraft when things go wrong.
Okay, give me an example.
If your screen goes black, can you punch the drone straight up safely? Can you move laterally without hitting a tree? Is your automated return to home path clear of that crane that just swung into the area?
You have to know the answers to those instantly.
Yes. If a visual observer asks a pilot, if a gust of wind hits you right now, where exactly are you going to bail out? And the pilot cannot answer instantly. They have lost command. They are just hoping the environment stays friendly.
I love how the text frames that. Having hope instead of having options. A professional builds options. A distracted pilot relies on hope.
And hope is a terrible strategy in aviation.
Really terrible. And wrapping up the big 8, we have timing and changing risk, which is really just the culmination of our whole story. Timing means tunnel vision makes you incredibly slow to process new information. You scan late, you detect hazards late, and you react late.
Everything is delayed.
Everything. And changing risk is the terrifying reality that the safe, calm mission you launched 10 minutes ago is not the high-wind, low-battery, obstacle-rich mission you are currently flying.
Synthesize all of that, and it leads to one chilling conclusion from the curriculum. Beautiful cinematic footage can easily hide an ugly, reckless, and dangerous operation. The footage only proves that the camera saw something well. It provides absolutely zero proof that the aircraft was being managed safely.
So the million-dollar question is, how does a smart, highly trained, capable human being allow all of those cascading failures to happen? How did they sit there feeling great while the mission falls apart?
It's all in the head.
To understand that, we have to dig into how the pilot's brain layers reality. The text calls this the three truths, and it explores the deep psychology of a phrase we all use every day. Just a second.
The Sky Commander sources introduce a brilliant cognitive framework here. They break a pilot's reality down into camera truth, attention truth, and mission truth.
Okay, but let's make sure we have these clearly defined. Camera truth, that seems pretty straightforward. That's just the literal pixels on the screen, right? It's what the lens is seeing.
Exactly. It answers a simple question. What is currently in the frame? The camera truth might be that the lighting is gorgeous, the focus is tack sharp, and the subject is perfectly centered. It is a verifiable truth, but it is an incredibly narrow, two-dimensional slice of reality.
Okay, and attention truth. How does that differ from the camera feed itself?
Attention truth is what the pilot's mind is actively processing in that exact millisecond. It answers this question, what data is the pilot mentally using right now?
So it's internal.
Right. The pilot might be looking at the screen, but their attention truth is solely focused on keeping the exposure correct as a cloud passes over the sun. Attention truth is uniquely dangerous because it feels like complete, absolute awareness to the person experiencing it.
Because they're working hard on that one task.
Exactly. They feel highly alert, even though they are only processing perhaps 5% of the available environmental data.
Which leaves mission truth.
Mission truth is the full, unfiltered, unsparing operating reality. It is everything happening in the physical three-dimensional world.
So in our scenario,
the mission truth is, the drone is drifting toward a pole. The battery trend is plummeting because of a headwind. A curious neighbor has walked directly under the flight path, and the pilot's spatial awareness is completely degraded.
So the catastrophic failure occurs when camera truth and mission truth diverge, and the pilot is completely unaware of it.
Precisely. When camera truth and mission truth disconnect, risk multiplies exponentially. The image is telling the pilot a soothing, positive story of success and control. The mission reality is telling a harsh story of shrinking margins and impending failure.
And because the pilot is locked into the screen?
Because they are cognitively locked into their attention truth, which is married to the camera feed, they are utterly blind to the real world.
The training manual highlights specific everyday warning phrases that pilots use when this exact disconnect is happening. And the scariest one is a word we use constantly in daily life. Probably.
Oh, I hate that word in this context.
Right. A pilot looks at the screen and mutters, "The battery is probably fine for one more orbit," or "We probably have enough room to clear those trees." The visual observer would probably say something if we were drifting too close.
Probably is the language of surrendered command.
Surrendered command.
When you hear an operator use that word, they have swapped active verification for passive hope. They recognize a gap in their situational awareness, but instead of taking action to fill it, they plug the hole with blind optimism.
They just assume it's fine.
Right. A true professional doesn't use probably. They use confirmation. They say battery trend confirmed sufficient. Obstacle clearance confirmed at 20 feet.
But the phrase that gets the biggest red warning box in the entire manual is, "Just a second."
Yes, just a second. The most dangerous 3 words in aviation.
Let's play this out. A visual observer standing next to the pilot notices the drift. They say, "Hey, you're getting a bit close to that guy wire." And the pilot, staring intently at the screen, says, "Yeah, I see it. Just a second." What is actually happening inside the pilot's brain in that moment?
What is fascinating and terrifying is that the pilot hasn't consciously rejected safety. They have simply chosen to delay it.
Right.
They are experiencing severe task fixation. They hear the warning. They mentally acknowledge the hazard. But their captured attention tells them, I just need to finish the sweeping pass. I just need to lock in this perfect angle. And then in 2 seconds, I will deal with the guy wire.
It's like the pilot thinks they have a remote control for the universe. They're asking reality to just hit the pause button. Hold on, wind. Hold on, battery drain. Let me just finish filming this chimney, and then you can resume.
Right.
But reality does not pause. The wind keeps pushing. The drone keeps drifting. The battery keeps dying. The wire stays exactly where it is.
Just a second is the operator asking reality to wait while their brain catches up. And reality never waits. It is a completely unequal negotiation.
It's a losing game.
Totally. This vulnerability to the dopamine loop, to the beauty of the camera frame, is so deeply hardwired into human psychology that the manuals are adamant on one point. A pilot cannot rely on their own brain alone to break the spell.
You can't just try harder.
You cannot outthink tunnel vision once you are in it. You need an external safety system.
Which is the perfect transition to how we actually solve this. Because if you know your own brain is going to betray you, you need what I like to call the external brain. You need a crew, specifically a visual observer or VO.
But the curriculum is absolutely ruthless about the quality of that observer. An unbriefed casual VO is actually worse than flying alone.
Wait, worse? How is having someone watch worse?
Because they provide a false sense of security. The pilot thinks, well, Dave is watching the drone, so I can just stare at the screen. But Dave doesn't know what to look for. Dave's just hanging out.
Dave's just enjoying the afternoon.
Exactly. A VO is not there to be a spectator. They aren't there to admire your flying skills or chat about weekend plans. They are a highly specific risk control mechanism. Their singular job is to protect the pilot from screen capture.
The sources spend a lot of time contrasting weak callouts versus strong callouts from a VO. A weak callout is something like a nervous, hey, careful man, or watch out, or you're getting pretty close.
Think about the cognitive load of a weak callout. Why are those phrases so dangerous?
They're vague.
Because they force a pilot who is already heavily task-loaded, staring at a screen, managing sticks, and fighting wind, to use precious mental bandwidth to decode a riddle. Careful of what? Close to what? The tree above me, the building behind me. A weak callout actually increases the pilot's confusion and workload in a critical moment.
Right. So a strong callout completely removes the riddle. It is highly specific, directional, and actionable. Something like drone drifting east toward light pole, about 10 meters. Recommend hold. Boom. Zero decoding required.
Right.
The pilot instantly knows the hazard, the direction, the distance, and the recommended action.
But here is where the human element gets incredibly messy and where these manuals really shine. The biggest failure point of a visual observer isn't lack of vision, it's politeness.
Yes. This is such a relatable human dynamic. If I am acting as your VO and I see you are incredibly focused, getting this majestic cinematic shot of a building, and the client is standing right behind us going, ooh, and ah!
Yeah, everyone's impressed.
I really do not want to be the guy who loudly yells hold and ruins the magic just because I think you might be drifting a foot or two.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be the buzzkill. We are socially conditioned not to interrupt people who are working hard.
And that social conditioning will cost you your aircraft.
Yeah.
That exact hesitation is why the pilot must empower the VO long before takeoff. If you wait until the drone is in the air, social pressure and politeness will win every time. The VO will hesitate.
They'll second guess themselves.
They'll tell themselves, I don't want to sound alarmist. The pilot is an expert. They probably see the pole. That politeness eats your safety margin. The pilot must look the VO in the eye during the pre-flight brief and say explicitly, if you're unsure, call hold. I want early calls. Do not wait until you are certain we are about to crash.
Better safe than sorry.
Exactly. I would much rather pause a shot early than learn about a hazard late.
You have to give them absolute permission to interrupt the flow state.
You have to make interruption the expected norm, not some socially awkward exception. And it's not just the VO you have to manage. The text notes that the client themselves is often the biggest accidental hazard on a job site.
Clients are naturally curious. They are paying for the service. They are fascinated by the technology. They want to look over your shoulder at the screen, and they get excited.
Yeah, they want to be involved.
They'll point and say, oh, wow, while you're up there, can we get an angle of that garden over to the left? Which is completely normal human behavior. But if the pilot is in the middle of a complex low-altitude maneuver near a glass building, turning their head to answer a question about camera resolution is a massive, incredibly dangerous distraction.
This is where the drone manuals borrow a foundational concept from commercial aviation. The sterile cockpit.
Sterile cockpit.
During critical phases of flight takeoff, landing, low-altitude passes, close obstacle proximity, all non-essential conversation stops. Period. No jokes, no small talk, no client questions.
I really appreciate the specific script the source material provides for dealing with clients because it's awkward to tell the person writing your check to shut up.
Yeah.
You don't want to sound arrogant or rude.
You want to keep them happy.
The manual suggests saying, I love that idea. I will answer that right after this pass. I need a quiet cockpit while the aircraft is close to the structure.
It is brilliant communication because it establishes an absolute safety boundary while simultaneously demonstrating total professionalism. Stopping a shot or delaying an answer doesn't make the pilot look weak, unsure, or rude.
That makes them look competent.
It makes them look like an operator who is in absolute, unshakable command of their environment. Think about it from the client's perspective. They don't just want pretty footage. They want the peace of mind that they hired someone who isn't going to crash a piece of heavy machinery through their glass lobby doors.
That's a good point.
When they see you enforcing strict safety boundaries, their trust and respect for you actually skyrockets.
So managing the crew and the client happens in real time, but the best operators don't wait for the heat of the moment to establish these rules. They win the battle for attention before the drone ever leaves the ground. To survive the air, you have to build a flawless pre-flight architecture.
The premise of this architecture is that every single camera-centric drone mission has a war for attention built right into it.
A war for attention.
The camera desperately wants your attention. The aircraft needs your attention. The physical environment demands your attention. And the pilot only has a finite reservoir of mental bandwidth. An amateur throws a drone in the air with a vague goal. Let's get the shot.
Just winging it.
Right. A professional launches with a rigorous system. Let's capture the deliverable while actively protecting the aircraft, preserving our margins, and maintaining decision authority.
Let's dig into the first pillar of this pre-flight architecture, shot logic. Vague goals like, get some cool footage, lead directly into tunnel vision because there is no defined endpoint.
You don't know when you're done.
Right. You don't know when to stop, so you just keep flying until the battery screams at you. The text introduces shot logic, which requires a pilot to mentally classify every planned shot into one of three buckets: required, useful, and drop shots.
It is a phenomenal cognitive tool for managing pressure. You must know exactly why a shot exists before you execute it.
So what's a required shot?
Required shots are the non-negotiable core of the mission, the specific angles the client is actually paying for. Useful shots add great value and texture to the final video, but they aren't strictly necessary.
And drop shots?
Drop shots are the high-risk, low-reward, highly cinematic beauty shots. They are the shots you will instantly, without a second thought, abandon if the wind picks up, the battery gets low, or you just feel off your game.
It takes the emotion out of it.
By defining these categories before you ever power on the drone, aborting a drop shot doesn't feel like a personal failure. It feels like flawless execution of the safety plan.
Right.
You also have to identify which specific maneuver is most likely to steal your attention. Usually a complex multi-axis cinematic orbit or a really highly detailed inspection close-up, and you plan extra VO callouts and safeguards just for that specific 2-minute window.
The next pillar is planning buffer space. We talked a little bit about physical buffer space earlier, making the conscious choice to stay 20 feet away from a light pole instead of trying to thread the needle at 3 feet. But the text makes it clear that buffer space is so much more than just physical distance.
Buffer space is the structural room you build into a mission to allow yourself to be human, which means allowing yourself to be wrong. Humans are imperfect. Wind shifts unexpectedly. GPS signals glitch. Clients ask distracting questions. You need margin to absorb those errors without it becoming an emergency.
I like to think of it like a financial savings account, but for mistakes. If you live paycheck to paycheck with absolutely zero savings, one flat tire ruins your entire month. You have no buffer.
That's exactly it.
If you fly a drone with zero buffer space, one sudden gust of wind puts you into a wall. You need a savings account of space and time.
That is a perfect analogy. And the text details 4 distinct types of buffer space you must build. Physical buffer is your distance from hazards. Time buffer is your decision room, for example, making the call to start your return flight when the battery hits 30% instead of 15%. So if you suddenly hit a massive headwind on the way back, you have the time and power to deal with it calmly.
Okay, so physical and time.
Then cognitive buffer is your spare mental capacity. Imagine trying to do complex long division in your head while someone is shouting random numbers at you.
Sounds like a nightmare.
That's a pilot with zero cognitive buffer. If you are task loaded to the absolute maximum, just keeping the drone steady, you have no cognitive buffer left to process a sudden low-altitude warning beep. And finally, there is escape buffer.
The clean way out.
Yes, a professional never, ever flies an aircraft into a corner they cannot easily get out of. Before committing the drone to a closed pass near a structure, the pilot must know exactly which direction they will push the stick to escape if a gust of wind hits them. The escape path must be preloaded in their mind.
Which brings us to pause points. Camera missions create an incredible sense of momentum. You nail one good shot, you feel the dopamine, and you immediately want to flow right into the next one and the next one.
It's addictive.
It is. Momentum feels like efficiency. But the manual warns that momentum aggressively degrades judgment. You stop evaluating the environment and start just chasing the high of the footage.
So you intentionally engineer a pause point. You state it aloud during the brief. I am going to fly a slow orbit around the main tower, but I will physically pause the drone after a half circle to check my battery trend, evaluate the wind on that side of the building, and confirm my drift.
It breaks the spell. It forces you to voluntarily step out of that seductive camera truth and forcibly reevaluate the mission truth.
And if the mission truth is changed, if the wind is stronger than expected or the battery is draining faster, you act on that new information. But to act correctly under pressure without agonizing over it, you must have established the ultimate pre-flight decision. Clear priorities.
Because things will conflict.
When the demands of the camera and the demands of safety compete, and they absolutely will compete on every job, you must already know what wins.
The hierarchy in the manual is crystal clear, and honestly, it applies to so much more than just aviation. Priority 1 is people and airspace. If an unaware person walks into the flight path or a helicopter is heard in the distance, the shot loses. Instantly.
Non-negotiable.
Priority 2 is aircraft control and recoverability. If you lose your GPS lock or your video link gets sketchy, the shot loses. Priority 3 is margins. If the battery is dropping too fast or the wind is pushing you too close to a tree, the shot loses.
Yep.
Priority 4 is the required deliverable. And priority 5, sitting dead last at the bottom of the list, are the nice-to-have beauty shots.
The manual provides a mantra for this hierarchy that every operator should memorize. The shot is allowed to ask, safety decides.
The shot is allowed to ask, safety decides. That is incredibly powerful. But let's be totally real for a second. You can do all this planning. You can categorize your shot logic, build massive buffer spaces, establish a sterile cockpit, and brief your VO perfectly.
Sure.
But when you are actually in the air, standing in the sun, staring at that glowing screen, and the lighting on the building is absolutely magical, the camera is still a seductive trap.
Oh, definitely.
When you feel that tunnel vision creeping in, when the outside world starts to go quiet and all you see is the frame, you need a physical and mental mechanism to snap back to reality. And that is where the rubber meets the road. Real-time recovery. Breaking the spell.
The very first step in recovery, according to the curriculum, is purely physical. You cannot think your way out of a stare. You have to physically move your head and look away from the screen, break the visual lock, look at the actual sky.
But the text is very specific that just looking up isn't enough. You have to verbalize it. You have to say out loud to your crew, eyes outside or pausing the shot. Why does speaking out loud make such a massive difference in breaking tunnel vision?
Because vocalizing acts as a hard mental circuit breaker. When you speak, you force your brain to switch processing modes. It shifts you from passive visual absorption to active verbal command. It physically interrupts the fixation loop. Furthermore, it tells your visual observer that you are actively managing your own attention. It invites the crew back into the operational loop. A silent pilot is very often a fixated, overwhelmed pilot. A pilot who constantly narrates their actions and their awareness is a pilot in command.
Once you break the stare and vocalize the pause, the sources provide a few mental frameworks for recovery. They use acronyms like gimbal and wideback, which are great for structured scans, but the most actionable, immediate one for breaking tunnel vision is the pause method.
The pause method is fantastic.
Let's really break down the mechanics of PAUSE because the specific order of these letters is intentional.
Absolutely. The order is designed to manage cognitive load. P stands for pause the shot. Stop adding complexity to your life. Stop the cinematic orbit. Stop the descent. Stop trying to fix the camera exposure.
So stop everything.
Just let go of the camera controls and hold your physical position, assuming it is safe to do so. A pilot who tries to keep the shot moving while simultaneously trying to recover their situational awareness is still letting the image compete with safety. You have to kill the camera's momentum first.
Makes sense. A is for aircraft. Find it in the physical sky. Reorient yourself to the machine. Know exactly where its nose is pointing, gauge its distance from structures, and visibly check if it is drifting in the wind.
And notice why A comes before checking your screen again. If you pause and immediately look back down at the screen to check your telemetry, your attention gets captured all over again.
You fall right back into the trap.
You must rebuild your spatial awareness in the physical world first. Once you have the aircraft visually locked, use for attraction. Update the world. Scan the surrounding airspace for traffic. Scan the ground below for new people or vehicles. Look at the trees to gauge the wind. You are deliberately rebuilding the rich three-dimensional reality of the environment that you ignored while you were staring at the two-dimensional screen.
Only then do we get to S, which is systems. Now, with your spatial awareness rebuilt, you look back at the screen, but you look at it properly. You don't look at the image, you look at the data.
Right.
You check the battery trend, not just the isolated percentage. You check your signal strength. You check your GPS satellite count.
And finally, E is for escape and execute. Before you do anything else, confirm your clean way out. If the drone suffers a malfunction right now, where will you put it? Once you've confirmed your escape path, you make a deliberate, active command decision. Do you continue the mission, modify the parameters, return to home, or land immediately?
Okay, I want to present a hypothetical here because I think this is where a lot of people fail. Let's say I felt myself getting fixated. I broke the stare. I said, eyes outside. I ran through my entire pause scan. I found the aircraft. The world is clear of people. My systems and battery trend are totally nominal, and I have a clear escape route. Everything is actually perfectly fine.
Okay, good scenario.
So I just drop my head, grab the sticks, and go right back to filming the exact same way I was doing a minute ago.
Absolutely not.
Oh, really?
And you are highlighting the most common, insidious mistake operators make. The text is incredibly clear on this point. Do not automatically resume the same momentum. If you just dive right back into the exact same maneuver with the exact same mental posture, you will fall right back into the exact same tunnel vision trap within 30 seconds.
Because nothing changed.
You haven't changed the conditions that captured you in the first place. You must reset the mission.
Resetting the mission. What does that actually sound like in practice, standing out in the field?
It sounds like an active modification based on reality. You might say, resetting wider, we are going to do the same shot, but I am adding 10 feet of buffer space to give myself more room to react. Or, the battery trend is a bit tighter than my pre-flight plan. We are skipping the low-altitude pass and moving straight to the required top-down shots. You act on the current reality, utilizing your updated mental model, not the outdated plan you made in the office an hour ago. You humbly acknowledge that your attention was captured, and you proactively change the parameters of the shot to give yourself a larger cognitive and physical buffer.
This brings us to the ultimate philosophical lesson of the source material. This entire manual isn't just a list of neat tips and tricks for not crashing a drone. It is demanding a completely different professional identity.
It's a total mindset shift.
It is the profound identity shift from acting like a camera operator to acting like an aircraft commander.
That distinction perfectly encapsulates the standard of professionalism we've been circling this entire time. A camera operator's mindset is singular. I can get the footage. A great aircraft commander's mindset is holistic. I can get the footage while actively managing the aircraft, preserving the safety margins, protecting the people on the ground, scanning the airspace, and continuously updating my escape path.
They hold all of it at once.
To a commander, the image on the screen is just one piece of telemetry data among many. The image gets one vote at the table. It does not get command authority over the mission.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I think the biggest summary point to take away is that true professionalism isn't about pretending you are an infallible robot who never gets distracted.
Nobody's perfect.
Right. It is not about achieving some mythical Zen state of perfect, unbroken awareness. It is about acknowledging your very real human limitations, respecting the dopamine traps built into our technology, and building robust systems, crew briefings, pause points, buffer spaces, clear vocal callouts to catch your own distraction early before the mission pays the ultimate price.
The final defining synthesis from the Sky Commander curriculum is this concept of defensible footage. Defensible footage is the only footage that matters.
Defensible footage.
If you capture a staggeringly beautiful cinematic shot or a perfectly lit thermal inspection image, but you cannot explain to an investigator how you captured it safely if you didn't know your battery trend, if you didn't know where your visual observer was looking. If you were completely blind to your escape path while you filmed it, then you weren't operating at a high level. You just came lucky with style. And luck is not a safety system.
I love that. Luck is not a safety system.
Let's hear.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, building on everything we've unpacked today. Take this out of the sky and apply it to your own life, your own work, your own daily routines. What is the gimbal in your life?
That's a great question.
What is that shiny, immediately rewarding screen task or metric that captures all of your attention, gives you that steady hit of dopamine, and makes the rest of your complex world go completely quiet? Are you truly in command of your environment and your priorities when you are locked into it? Or are you just staring at the feed, feeling highly productive, while your margins quietly disappear, your situational awareness fades, and you drift blindly toward an obstacle?
Something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep your eyes outside, and always command the mission. That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.